Dating in Guadalajara isn't as easy as you think, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more in this video because recently a gentleman reached out to me, and so I thought this would be an interesting video to make because the truth of the matter is Guadalajara isn't like easy mode, especially if you're looking for the more high level and extremely attractive women here. It's a bit more competitive, and if you watch some of my other videos, I would say it's more on par with a place like Poland than it is with some of the other Latin American countries. I also just recorded another video talking about the best ways to meet the beautiful women of Guadalajara, which are the tapatillas, that you should check out after this. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and get on into it. First and foremost, I want to say that the women in Guadalajara, the tapatillas, are a little bit more fair skinned and they are extremely attractive, a bit more fit on average, have a decent level of English, there's a high level of education. And in my experience, the women below about, let's say, 25 don't have a bunch of tattoos, crazy piercings, don't tend to be single mothers, and once again, a fairly good level of English. I would also say that you don't have the same problems in Guadalajara or most places in Mexico that you do in some other places in Latin America with the whole you get drugged and then you wake up and all your shit is gone, because obviously that is no bueno, as they say in Spanish. So, with that said, let's go ahead and dive on a little bit deeper into this topic. Now, the reason I say it's a little bit more like Poland is that women here are a bit more conservative than they are in other places. And a lot of that is because Guadalajara is a bit more traditional than a place like Mexico City. Now, I have said Mexico City is probably better in terms of dating if you're just looking for an easier place to date, because there's 30 million people, and you get Colombians, you get Brazilians, you get Venezuelans, you get Panamanians, but the level of beauty not as high in Mexico City. But that said, there is more of a hookup culture if that is what you are interested in. Now in Guadalajara, they have more of those, let's say, traditional family values where there isn't as much of a hookup culture, especially with the extremely attractive women. I would also say that most Mexican women in Guadalajara really don't care if you're from America or what may have you, because a lot of the women here come from decent families that make decent money, especially for a Mexican family. I think it would surprise you the size of the Mexican middle class and even the Mexican upper class as well. I think it would truly, truly shock you. So, a lot of them aren't super interested in your money or your passport. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this channel. A lot of them don't want to go to the United States. Like in Monterey, a lot of the people, middle class or above, have access to the United States. So many of them go to McAllen in Texas to go shopping, and obviously they need a visa to cross the border, but then they come right back to Monterey. And it's kind of the same thing here in Guadalajara. Extremely large middle class, and that is also why a decent portion of them speak English. It's also why a decent portion of them aren't single mothers, because there's a bit of a correlation with women from lower classes tending to be single mothers more often than the women from non lower class families. So that is something you should be very, very aware of. They are a lot less, how can I put this? They are a lot less interested in people who are in the tourist box or bubble kind of thing. Whereas if you want to have success, especially with the more attractive ones, you're probably going to want to establish that you are not a tourist and you are someone who is actually living here. I used this in my previous video, but a great example of this is just having like basic Spanish. I would flirt with women in Spanish to show that, hey, I'm putting effort into learning Spanish, and most people would only put effort into learning Spanish because they plan on staying there long term. But obviously, since I didn't have the accent and I didn't use the same slang words that they use in their everyday language, they would know, oh, this guy's a gringo, but maybe he's not that simple tourist kind of guy, which is something that I think really holds true for a place like Poland as well, especially in the more, let's say, upper crust of Mexico, or Guadalajara, I should say. They don't necessarily want to socialize in English in larger settings. So if you plan on building a social circle or just like generally making friends, it would be in your best interest, or I should say, it would behoove you to learn at least conversational Spanish. There could be a bit of a negative stereotype towards women who date a gringo who doesn't speak any Spanish at all, because there is um, a bit of a classism culture here in Mexico. But a long story short, don't think you can just show up here looking like a slob and throwing around your American money and your American passport and think you're just going to be God's gift to the Mexican women. They really aren't going to see you like that. And you really need to be on top of your game, especially because a lot of the local guys here take care of themselves and they make decent money. But I will say, if you are a little bit more, let's say, masculine, that could be a separating fact, because a lot of the, we'll just say, Latin culture or Mexican culture is a bit different. Some of these guys are have some, let's just say, more feminine traits, especially when it comes to women. And the culture is a bit different when it comes to women, because they kind of expect you to, like, give them flowers and certain things that just aren't really as common in the United States. Like, for example, when you want a Mexican girl to be your girlfriend, you're supposed to take her out to a nice dinner, you're supposed to get her a bunch of flowers, and you're supposed to get her like a cake that says, "Will you be my girlfriend?" kind of thing. And that is because the Mexican men have kind of established that. But we aren't going to open that can of worms. Long story short, it's not going to be as easy to date the high quality Guadalajaran or Tapatian women as many people are led to believe, because all the things that I have outlined in this video. But with that said, I do truly believe they are absolutely worth dating. I absolutely believe that they are great marriage quality material. That probably didn't come out right, but you know what I mean. And with all that said, let me know your experience with Mexican women or Guadalajaran women from Guadalajara, not the like Mexican American women who grew up in America and then came back to Mexico, because that's a whole different can of worms that we aren't going to talk about in this video. But yeah, let's just wrap it up there. I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, thank you for watching. Peace. Much love.